Hi, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel. Today, the kit I've pulled out of the stash is the P-61C Black Widow in 1/48 scale from HobbyBoss. This kit was sent to me by viewer Dane Stewart. Dane, thanks very much, my friend. If you enjoy the video, don't keep it to yourself. Give it the imperial thumbs up, hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. It's a great way to show your support and it costs you nothing. Now, let's look at this kit. The Black Widow was first released by HobbyBoss in 2014 as the P-61A, with two schemes, one in olive drab for the 421st Night Fighter Squadron and one in black for the 422nd. In 2015, HobbyBoss released the P-61B. This time, both the schemes were in fat black, and in the same year, the P-61C with the extra dorsal gun turret was released for the first time. The kit I have here is a reissue of that C model kit. So now we know its ancestry, let's have a look at the kit itself and start with the box it came in. So here we have the box of the P-61C Black Widow. Kind of nice box art, really, not bad. It looks drawn rather than computers. All this looks like paint, so it's probably painted and drawn rather than done on a computer, which is fine. It's the age of the kit, I'm sure. 1/48 scale, as I say down here, as it says, ages 14 plus. They aim these at, probably because of the size of some of the parts. Up here it says the length when it's complete will be 420 millimeters in span and 318 millimeters long, so 42 centimeters span. It's going to be quite a brute beast, a bit bigger than the width of the box. Kit in 1/48, it's quite a massive thing to be a night fighter if you think about it. On this side here, there's a little bit of history about the why the P-61 existed and the difference between the C and the other marks. Side views of the one scheme that's included, and here copyright 2015, so we know this is a 2015 kit. On the other side, pretty much the same stuff, but in Chinese. But there's a little drawing of the Decals sheet as well. The box, I must say, actually feels very, very sturdy, which is good. So, I don't know, let's have a look and see what's inside it for our money. Okay, inside the box we have, each frame is individually wrapped. Quite a lot of plastic here. Each individual frame is wrapped as well, which is sort of fine, I guess. There's a decal sheet, there's an instruction sheet. There's something that looks very much like a nose weight, because there's quite a lot of heft to it, so it's probably a nose weight. These are, I think in here are the transparent parts, here and here. And these are the slide molded, I guess, covers for the engines. But we'll have a look at all these bits in a bit more detail now. Okay, going through the frames now. This is the first alphabetically, which is frame C for Charlie. Various bits. This is the cockpit area, I'm guessing. Main legs, some seats for the crew, bits and pieces. That's the gear bay there. Inside of the wings, I'm guessing. Inner panels for the wings. Frame D for Delta. This is the instrument panel, the radio sets, I'm presuming radio and radar sets. Another crew seats, bits and pieces of gear, the undercarriage leg there. And of course the big thing here is the horizontal stabilizer that sits between the two massive tail booms. There are two frames, E for Echo. Each consists of a fuel tank, the engine, front bank of the cylinders, which look like rocket pods, bombs, main wheels, Yagi aerials, bits of the front engine, part of the engine and propeller assembly. A couple of little pylon bits here, I'm guessing for the bombs. And there are two of those. G1 is the upper halves of the wings, and these look like ailerons, tiny little ailerons at the end of these massive, massive, massive wings. I'm wondering whether the flaps did something or whether the speed brakes did something sort of differentially to help roll control, because these are very small little ailerons at the ends of these very, very fat and chunky wings. And frame G2 are the bottom halves of the wings, again with the bottom halves of the two ailerons. Frame H, the two halves of the main body, main fuselage area. This is the nose end here with the two crew here, tail gunner here, and the glazed tail. And these are the holes for the guns to point through, part of the main armament to point through. Then we have two ostensibly identical frames, although of course they're not, because they are mirror frames. Mike and November, M and N. Each of these are the main booms of the aircraft, the tail booms, between which the horizontal stabilizers sit, some air intakes, and the propellers for each side. Then we have some cast metal parts. This fits somewhere near the nose. This on top of the main gear bay. These fit behind the engine cylinder ranks at the front of the engine, because this is quite a long way forward from the undercarriage. That helps. And these are actually bits that go inside the radar part of the nose. In front of these sits a little radar dish. So all of these designed to keep that nose on the ground. The forward parts of the engine covers are single piece mouldings, which are separate from the frames. Now I don't know why they've moulded them separately. I can't see anything in here that couldn't be injection moulded in a conventional injection mould, although obviously they would be quite high cuts into the mould to do this. Maybe it's difficult to keep the mould temperatures the same to mould something of this height on a conventional frame, or even get enough plastic in there to do it without disturbing the rest of the frame. I don't know. But anyway, there's two of those. Maybe they do just sort of mould all those together in a batch. This is frame F1. As you can see, it's the bulk of the canopy and the fuselage framing for the windows and observation things. There's a lot of visibility on here. The gunner's position, I'm guessing pilot's position, rear gunner as well, with the rear fairing here, all very nicely done. There's also an F2 frame here, which is the nose. Now, I don't know why it's moulded in clear plastic. I'm guessing you could have this clear so you could see the radar set that sits behind if you wanted to, but it wasn't a clear part on the actual aircraft. It was maybe fiberglass or something like that. It had to be radar transparent, of course. Anyway, they've included it on this frame. The finish is lovely, I have to say, but not entirely sure why it's not just a plastic part, unless you're giving people the option to display it with being able to see where the radar system is. We look at the print itself, the actual mouldings. They're nice and clean. Can't see any flesh on these interior cuts for windows and things like that. Panel lines, yep, they look okay. They're not actually quite fine for this scale, quite restrained. I don't know whether ultimately we might do like a dark gunmetal on these rather than leave them black, just to highlight. It may not have been what they did in the field, but you know what? Who says they didn't replace them and never got around to painting them? It's my model. I can do what I like. So these are the posts for the Yagi aerials as well. But yeah, the riveting and stuff like that looks nice and clean. So see what I'm tempted by is doing it as a black undercoat, the primer, and then using some white to do some patterning on here, just to give it a bit of texture, as it were, to the black, and then a sort of a dark grey panel wash. If it needs a panel wash, then use dark grey to just pick out some of these edges, highlighting edges. Like you can see here, for example, the way the light falls, this is actually a highlight and a shadow. That's the actual sort of reflective grey. And then there's a highlight that picks up that panel, not a low light. So that's pretty much how the panel washes on black work as well, by essentially creating that highlight line. But you know what, we'll see how we go. But the plastic looks beautiful. It looks so crisp and so clean and so well molded. I don't imagine we're going to get too many issues with them. All of the ejector pins are very well recessed. There's no problems there with them sticking out in the way of everything. Even here, this little sort of rectangle here, which is where the wing sort of connects into. I'm not the biggest fan of these. I prefer a through spar, like a lot of companies do. But, you know, that looks so precise that it kind of gives you confidence that when it focuses, there you go, thank you, will fit accurately. It's such a sharp cutout that you kind of think, yeah, that's going to work. Even though, as I say, it's not my favourite way of putting wings on aeroplanes. The panel lines, again, very good, very fine. The riveting looks nice. They look like they'll be good to pick up with some pale panel line wash. It looks like they'll come together quite nicely. But the thing I really want to look at is the moulding of these parts here on the top surface of the wing. I mean, the retracted speed flaps, fine, whatever. But these, whatever these are, I will find out what they are. No doubt, actually, someone will tell me what they are. But they look like some sort of, I don't know about dive brakes, but they look like some sort of spoiler mechanism that might pop up to kill the lift at the back end of the wing for some reason. Maybe it's part of the roll control with these terribly tiny ailerons here. So maybe that's part of the roll control mechanism. Anyway, the moulding of them all is exquisite, and I'm really, really, really impressed by it. Then the instrument panel, you can see, is all very moulded. I'm tempted to cut the decals into sections and lay them separately. Do some dry brushing first, and lay these on, and these as a set, and then these as a set maybe, just so that they still have that sort of 3D relief. Because if you just put the set of decals over them, it's going to drag down around here, and you know, you're going to spend days trying to get that to fit with decal set or decal sol or whatever you use, microsol, whatever decal solution you use. I guess the option is of course, go aftermarket and just get a high res one, but I don't know. I don't think I need to do that on this. Similarly here, a lot of these bits come as decals. So if there's a decal that includes what's on that dial, then I'll use that decal just as the dial. The rest of these bits and pieces, I'm going to dry brush and do it that way, rather than rely on the decals, I suspect, especially for these sort of switches here, which are on a decal, but they're just so far raised up, they ain't going to look very good. So here's the decal sheet, thankfully clear of pretty much any kind of stenciling at all. We have the stars and bars, we have the serial numbers, name, some don't walk anywhere near these lines, some tails to the stripes, and then bits of instrument panel and radio panel and stuff like that. Otherwise, very, very straightforward, and I'm really glad to see that. I guess being a black aircraft, they didn't want to paint warning don't steps and don't push and things like that in any other colour, so they couldn't be bothered, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I'm glad there's not that many decals to put on. If we look at the printing here, it looks very sharp. This is our little 0.5mm diameter pencil lead here for scale. You can see all the instrument printing is very sharp. All these switches and boxes. I don't know what these are. A lot of these maybe I can do by dry brushing rather than relying on these, because I don't know whether these things have, if these have these bits and pieces and knobs and dials and switches or whatever as relief. These are never going to sit on there. Like this here, maybe, I don't know. Maybe some of this needs to be there. Some of it, I think, can be dry brushed and look pretty much the same. It's going to be behind plastic anyway, so I'm not going to see very much. The colours look, nice enough to me. I don't know who printed these, but they look pretty good. Moonlight Serenade. The stars and bars look okay. Nice dark blue, not really dark blue like sometimes you see, but yeah, good enough, I think. Looks very convincing, especially as it's got to sit against black. It should have some sort of definition as well. It looks like a good sort of dark gloss blue from the period, but very few actual decals to use. Most of them, the small ones, are for bits of instruments on the inside as well. So yeah, they look pretty sharp to me. So here's the instructions in English and Chinese. I guess some general instructions here, overall instructions. Be careful what tools you might need, things like that. How to apply the decals. Side view in black and white, printed relatively inexpensively. Oh, the product code 81732 as well. In here, there's also a sort of checklist of all the icons used in the things. Obviously, CA glue you're going to have to use because you've got some metal parts that you're adding to the structure. But otherwise, this should be pretty straightforward. First thing we have is a frame map and all the parts, decals and metal parts, so on and so forth. Make sure you've got everything. It does say here some of these bits are unused, but we'll see. We will see. Then its construction starts with the cockpit, gear well, and then you put the gear in. Because the gear seems to sort of slot in here and there's no like slots on top of it to hold them in place, the main gear I probably won't put in until quite late, because I'm so adept at snapping these things whilst they're on a model that I'm building. So maybe I'll leave that off. Here, metal part sits on top of where the main nose gear is. There's also this huge metal part in front of the cockpit itself. The cockpit is largely painted, but what doesn't help is flat back, flat black. Oh, by the way, interior green comes down here. Could be on there to point that out. First thing to do, paint that interior green, and then there's some flat black details. But there we go. Not a problem. That's why you read these things ahead of time, dear viewer. Unlike what I normally do. Everywhere pretty much is interior green anyway, with black details. These are the gun barrels that poke through the side of the fuselage here. I guess they're 20mm cannon, I'm guessing. And then you can see the whole of the central fuselage pod, as it were, clamps together. This is the rear gunner's position here, or radar operator. I have to read up on these things to find out who sat where. Here are these metal parts here with the radar dish. The radar dish itself is in the off position here. Normally the dish would sort of go flat and then would sort of scan side to side and tilt up and down, looking for things, sending out its signals and whatever. This is the nose section. It is clear. I really don't understand why it is, but it is. So there we go. Then onto the booms on the fuselage. Now these look like you need to put in the legs here before you can put the two sides in. Now I'm going to check that, because I would much rather not have to put these legs in before putting them. I would much rather do the insides here, put them together, put the gear doors on, paint everything, then later on take the gear doors off again, hold them on with some little dabs of PVA or something, use them as a mask for the gear bay, take them off, then put the undercarriage in. So I'm going to see whether that's possible. If I dry fit this with these two halves together, and then see whether I can put that main leg in. If I can, happy days. If I can't, I'm going to have to just put the main leg in. I won't put all the rest in. I'll just put the main leg in for the moment and do it. I'd rather not have to do it that way. The top and bottom of the wings here. There's the holes here you can make here for the optional fuel tanks and for the bomb rack if you wish to put bombs on. It's all pretty straightforward looking stuff. The engine compartment, again, because there's a green band on the radiator gills here, radiator, the flaps, I should say, not the gills, the flaps, radiator flaps here, cooling flaps. I'm going to construct this, probably leave the prop off as well, construct the prop but paint it separately because it's got a green spinner, construct the engine, paint it all, and just then put the green stripe on, and then construct the rest of the aircraft and then put them on at the last minute. Here of course is where at the back is the weight as well. There's a nose weight or ballast weight, more of the same but for the other side. Put the whole thing together and Bob's your uncle. And if you want to put extra fuel tanks on, you can, and there's bombs you can put on as well. And there are some aerials you do need to put on, the Yagi aerials and sensors and whatever that go on the outside. But not overly complex. It looks relatively straightforward. Now in colour, or as close to colour as you can with a black aeroplane, is a single high gloss sheet with the marking layout, the decal positions and the colour callouts. Essentially it's entirely black apart from some green bits and pieces. Wingtips, the anti-glare shield here, the forward end of the prop spinner and those radiator cooling gills there, cooling flaps, they're all in green. Other than that, it's black. The white and red stripe there, those are decals, so you don't have to worry about that. You could paint them, I suppose, but I don't know. Might as well just let. I am actually tempted to paint those separately on the aircraft, do them with some lacquer, just to give it, just so it sort of conforms to all of the panels and stuff like that. I try and keep the use of decals to a minimum if I can. Here, interesting thing here is that they're saying to paint these red dots on, but then they provide decals for the no walk lines. So why they didn't provide little decals for those is beyond me, but hey ho, we'll spray them red anyway. Even more reason I've got to get those sprayed red, might as well spray those lines red as well, eh? Why not? Okay, so that's the layout. The colours, by the way, there are very few of them. Black, a bit of red and green essentially, and some silver here and there. Yellow tips to the props, of course, and the lights are green and red. But other than that, there's colour callouts here: Mr. Hobby, Vallejo, Model Master, Tamiya and Humbrol colours. There it is. I think this will make an amazing kit when I get round to making it. It's a plane I've wanted to make for years, and in 1/48 it'll be pretty special. I just need to get a paint mask set for the fuselage greenhouse. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to give it the old imperial thumbs up, hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you on another video where I pull a kit at random from the stash. Goodbye for now.